Hello everyone! Welcome back to the part 2 of our lesson, Preparing Egg Dishes. This week, we are going to talk about the basic egg cookery. So, are eggs good for you? Eggs are extraordinary food, but how much do you really know about eggs? Like the color, the size, or can we preserve eggs over thousands of years? Eggs are pretty much nature's perfect food. The humble egg can be eaten by itself for breakfast, or a snack, or whip it into your meringue, or you may include it to your salad to make an amazing dish. It is known as a versatile food. They are readily available, easy to cook, affordable, and packed with nutrients. The basic egg cookery. The basic principle of egg cooking is to use a medium to low temperature and time carefully. When you cook eggs at too high temperature or for too long at a low temperature, the whites shrink and become tough and rubbery, and the yolks become tough and their surface may turn gray-green. What are the 7 basic egg cookery? The first one is the fried eggs, and the example of this one is the sunny side up. In cooking a sunny side up, you need a small amount of fat or an oil or a butter. Egg white should not be burned. Egg yolk must be raw but firm and whole. The second one is an over easy eggs. An over easy eggs is a sunny side up that must cook upside down without burning the egg. An egg cooked over easy means that it gets fried on both sides, but it's not cooked for very long on the second side, so the yolk doesn't get cooked through and stays runny. The scrambled egg. Scrambled egg is a beaten egg cooked in a small amount of fat. While cooking, the egg must be scrambled using a turner. Scrambled egg must have moist and not dry. An omelette. An omelette is also beaten egg cooked in a small amount of fat. Egg must be cooked thin flat without browning. Omelettes must have fillings such as onion, ham, bacon, bell pepper, mushroom, or you may use ground beef. The next one is the boiled eggs. The first type of a boiled egg is what we call soft-boiled egg. Soft-boiled egg is an egg with shell cooked in a tap water. When the water is boiling, turn off the fire, then cover the pot and let it cook at least 3 minutes. After cooking, remove the egg from the water, then transfer in a bowl with cold running water to prevent egg yolk from browning. Hard-boiled egg. Hard-boiled egg is same as soft-boiled egg, but you need to cook the egg for 5 to 8 minutes. Hard-boiled eggs are boiled long enough for the yolk to solidify. Tips in boiling eggs in the shell. There are 2 ways in boiling the eggs in the shell. The first one is you may use cold water, and the second one is you may also use hot water. Using cold water from the start may have the less chance of the shell cracking, while using the hot water, more precise timing is needed. If you're going to make a soft-boiled egg using a cold water, you have to cook it for 3 minutes once boiling, while hard-boiled egg should be 7 minutes once boiling. But if you cook soft-boiled egg using the hot water, it should be 4 minutes, and the hard-boiled egg, it should be 10 minutes. You should refresh eggs once boiled to stop the cooking process. To stop a gray ring from forming around the yolk, as they are easier to peel. Refreshing is a term that means to plunge into cold water. This reduces the temperature of the food and stops the cooking process. Poached egg. Poached egg is a sunny-side up cooked in simmering water. It is an egg that has been cooked outside the shell by poaching or sometimes steaming as opposed to simmering or boiling liquid. This method of preparation can yield more delicately cooked eggs than cooking at higher temperatures such as with boiling water.
Eggs are quick, cheap, and easy, and if you don't have them in your fridge already, you probably should. Here are 5 easy ways to cook eggs perfectly every time. You don't need much for these first 2 preparations. All you need is a good non-stick skillet that doesn't have any scratches on it, a rubber spatula, some salt and pepper, and a good amount of butter. You want to use a non-stick skillet. Eggs are notoriously sticky because of all the protein and a lot of other stuff in there. And you also want to make sure that you're not using any metal utensils on the pan itself. First up, scrambled eggs, one of my personal faves. Scrambled eggs, there's a lot of different ways to cook them. This is the way that we prefer at Tasty Kitchen. It's a great idea to crack them into a separate bowl first. One, in case you have any big chunks of eggshell in there. If any shell does get into the bowl itself, totally fine. Take an eggshell that you just cracked and use that to go in and get the shell out. While it might seem easier to crack them into the pan and scramble them in there, it's not really a good even way to do it. You'll have some big chunks of egg white, some big chunks of egg yolk. Just trust me, it's an easy bowl to clean. Just throw them in a bowl first and scramble them in there. So instead of adding milk or cream, we just use a lot of butter. You start with about 2 tablespoons of butter, get it nice and foamy in the pan, and when it's pretty much all the way melted, we're gonna season our eggs with a bit of salt and pepper and any other seasonings you want, and then into the pan. We wanna keep our heat pretty low here, and we're actually not gonna move the eggs at all until we kind of see a little bit of the egg setting on the sides of the pan. When you start to see a little bit of the eggs set, that's when you wanna take a rubber spatula, and from the outside in, push the eggs towards the center and kind of all around the pan so that all the eggs are cooking pretty evenly. When they're about 3/4 of the way cooked, we're gonna do a real sneaky trick here and add a few cubes of butter. That's another tablespoon cut into 4s or so. We're gonna melt those cubes of butter into the eggs themselves, and they're gonna kind of emulsify sort of this like creamy, nice, melty-ness into the scrambled eggs, and they add this like really beautiful creamy texture at the end. So we recommend taking them off a little bit before you think. The residual heat within the eggs will continue to cook them until they're the perfect doneness. I mean, it definitely takes an art and takes a little bit of time to get the scrambled egg right, but there's just something so good about it. It just kind of like hits all those salty, creamy, fatty notes for me, and I just really, really love having scrambled eggs. The fried egg. I think people are afraid of fried eggs. I don't know, there's like so many different ways to do it. It's like, should the pan be high heat? Should it be low? How do you get that perfect color? We're gonna do ours on a medium heat for the fried egg. So add butter to the pan, add your egg into the butter. So you want it to be hot enough that the egg white is kind of setting when it goes in. Let it start cooking, and you wanna make sure that it's not so hot that the egg white itself is like going all over and boiling like crazy. add just a few drops of water at this point and immediately cover with a lid. And that's going to create a good amount of steam in the pan, so it's going to help cook the egg white without being on such a high heat that the egg yolk will cook through as well. At that point, once it's cooked for a few minutes, you have the world's most picture-perfect egg. Really yellow, vibrant yolk. The white is cooked through. There's none of that weird, snotty bit that no one likes, undercooked egg white. It just takes maybe a minute or two with that steam on top, and then you have a picture-perfect egg. I mean, you could Instagram that. There's a million things on the internet of how to get the perfectly hard-boiled egg. We've tested a whole bunch, and this is our tried and true method to get your perfect boiled egg every time. You want to put them over medium-high heat because you want to bring them to a boil, but you want it to kind of happen slowly. So similar to potatoes, we're doing this because we want them to cook really evenly. We don't want the outside to cook before the inside can. Once it's at a rolling boil, you want to take it off the heat, cover, and set your timer. Between 4 and 16 minutes, depending on how you like your yolks cooked. And then once they're cooked to your liking, you want to immediately take the eggs out and put them into an ice bath. That's going to stop the cooking right away to make sure that your yolk is going to be cooked to your preference. If you leave them in the hot water or just take them out of the hot water and don't cool them down, then you'll get that really weird, chalky, grayish green yolk, which we don't want. And just as a visual, here are eggs cooked at all of these different times. You can see how much softer the yolk is at 4 minutes, whereas 16 it's completely cooked through. You can just cut them in halves or quarters, throw them right on top of the salad. They add a nice amount of color and freshness, I think. They're also a really good snack as well, but there's a million different recipes you can use for hard-boiled eggs. Poached. All right, so for poaching eggs, which I honestly don't think is too scary, you want to use a big pot of water. There's just more room for the egg to kind of move around, and you want to make sure that your pot of water is, I know this sounds crazy, but at a hard simmer. You don't want it so boiling that the water is really disruptive and it's gonna shake the egg a ton, but if it's not moving at all, then the egg will just completely sink to the bottom and there won't be any movement rolling that egg white over the egg yolk. Similar to scrambled eggs, you're always gonna wanna make sure that you're cracking your eggs into a bowl first. And then we're gonna do a little whirlpool trick. So you're gonna stick your spoon in, swirl the water, and then that center whirlpool is where we're gonna drop our egg into. As it's slowing down is when you wanna add your egg. If it's still going too heavy, if the whirlpool's too fast, then the egg's just gonna be whoa. You wanna let the egg go and do its thing in there until you kind of can't see any of that translucent egg white anymore. With a poached egg, you want the egg yolk to still be quite runny, but again, no one wants a runny egg white. And that is a poached egg. So we're gonna blot it, get all the extra water off there, and then you're ready to eat. So that's the traditional method, but if you were doing a whole bunch, we've got a trick for you. So instead of a big deep pot, we're just gonna use a saute pan that has flat sides 3 or 4 inches deep that you can put some of these heat-safe glass bowls and have them completely covered in water. And for this one I can do 3, maybe even 4 at a time depending on how big your bowls are and how big your pot is. And then same deal, you want to crack your eggs into a separate dish. But what I'm going to do is actually go from one dish to another. And what that bowl is going to do is it's going to keep the egg contained in that space. This is cool because you can get a nice rounded shape every time, but it's going to look a little bit different than your classic poached egg. If you're just doing this for your friends and family at home, I don't think anyone will mind. It'll still taste the same. It's easier for you to do a whole bunch of them. And then it's a little less intimidating way to approach poached eggs. Really good, nice, soft, delicate way to have an egg. And it's also kind of an impressive way to serve something that's pretty cheap.
As much as possible, use a Teflon or a non-stick pan. Always wash the eggs before cracking. Never burn the egg white. And as much as possible, do not add salt when cooking egg. Condiments will be provided separately. Storage of eggs. Eggs are perishable and fragile. Therefore, it should be stored using the following guidelines. In a cool, humid temperature, they can be stored in the fridge or the dry store. It should be away from strong odors like onions and garlic. Cracked eggs should be used immediately, and we should keep it dry. Kind of storage. The first one is the cold storage. When we say cold storage, it is a refrigerated storage, a deep chilling freezer storage, keeping potentially hazardous foods cold enough to prevent bacteria from growing. the temperature of the freezer compartment must be 0 degree Fahrenheit or less. Number 2, the dry storage. It should be dry, cool, well ventilated, free from insects and rodents, clean and orderly. In the absence of refrigerators, eggs may be stored at the room temperature for about 7 days. But leftover egg yolks and egg whites should be kept in the containers that will prevent from drying. Recommended storage time for eggs. For the leftover yolks or white, it should be around 2 to 4 days only. Hard-cooked eggs within 1 week. Prepared egg dishes must be around 3 to 4 days only. Pickled eggs within 1 month, and frozen whole eggs, if it's blended, within 4 months. Now let us identify and prepare appropriate sauces, garnishes, and accompaniments as per menu items. Eggs are mostly served plain. Garnish is normally a chop or piece of green herb. For example, parsley chopped and sprinkled on top, or a spring placed beside the eggs on the plate. As the eggs are most consumed for breakfast, they will be accompanied with toast. More intricate preparations will have more complex elements. One of the examples is the Eggs Benedict. Eggs Benedict is a classical French preparation. You should need to prepare an English muffin, hot buttered spinach or sliced ham, poached egg, hollandaise sauce over the egg. Now let's take a look about the different techniques in presenting egg dishes attractively. One of the examples is the ham cheese and the perfect poached egg. The classic egg sandwich. And the last one is the classic deviled egg. Anyone can fry an egg, but to do it properly takes more skills. So that's it for today. If you do have any question, please DM me in my official Facebook account, Jerica ARQ Sorel. Have a blessed day ahead, and thank you so much. I'll see you next week.
Happy learning at home with lessons made easy by Olivarian GoTeach. One proud Olivarian.